Let's bring in CNBC.com markets reporter Yoon Lee for more on the day's events so far. Yoon, great to see you.
Thanks. Great to see you, too.
We've gone through this continued selling down of the Apple position by Berkshire Hathaway. He gave a nod in the direction of maybe there were some tax considerations. Any clues in what you heard from Warren about whether he's looking to redeploy some of this cash?
Yeah, so I think he seemed a little bit more in the mood to deploy more cash. And we heard him talking about this, the fact that he's looking at one thing in Canada. And, you know, he was very vague about it. We don't know if it's private or public. But just the fact that he's looking and overseas is very interesting. Now, he's invested in Canada before, a couple years ago, buying a mortgage underwriter just a few years ago. And as things get more expensive in the U.S., he started to look more overseas. And we know he's been very successful with his Japan bet that paid off very, very well.
And, of course, there's also this undisclosed position that seems to have been building.
Yeah, there's a lot of speculation as to this secret holding that he's been buying, or it could be one of his managers. Berkshire has been buying for the past 3 quarters straight. And we know it's something in the bank, insurance, or finance sector, and it is in it's in a couple $1 billion, so it is very significant bet, and that we don't know that yet. I hope somebody asks that question in the afternoon.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, pretty hard to think he would actually name it, but who knows? You never know. What else in terms of, obviously, a lot of attention on succession questions, both for Warren and even for Ajit Jain. It was a very specific question about, you know, what happens to leadership in the insurance division after that.
Yeah, and also about the equity portfolio, because I've been talking to shareholders here on the ground, and they asked me, you know, what's going to happen to Berkshire's top holdings like Coca-Cola, American Express, and Warren said, you know, firstly, Apple will extremely likely to continue to be the largest position, and when Greg takes over, they will still have you know, Coca-Cola or the long-time holdings that Berkshire's had.
Sure. I think we do have a little bit of what Warren might have said, some of these indications that maybe things are sort of slowing down on his side for now.
One way or another, there are more than 24 hours in his day, you know, and I just don't know how he covers the ground he does. He's willing to work. I mean, you know, and I couldn't get as much done anyway. You know, what I could do in a couple of hours, you know, may take 8 hours now. I just don't read as fast and everything said, but it's working very well. And this place, if anything happened to me, it would be working extremely well the next day. I don't get any phone calls. You could actually, we can rig something up so we got some answering machine that people think I'm still around, you know, or something in terms of.
Yeah, and then, you know, as we were saying before, he even was saying in reference to the idea of there being opportunities in India, he sort of said, well, maybe some other management team might have the energy to look into that stuff.
Yeah, it's something that, because he said Berkshire has built this reputation as this prominent deal maker and investor, but something in India he might not have the energy to do anymore, different cultures and so forth. But in terms of Japan, it worked out very well, and he's apparently looking at Canada.
Yes, in response to a question, he did point to that a couple of times. Also really a little skeptical about potentially doing more in China at this point as well. And, you know, I guess just to circle back to the Apple thing quickly, he seemed to take pains both by talking about taxes and also saying it's an even better business than Coca-Cola and American Express, to suggest that he hasn't necessarily reassessed the business in terms of its long-term value.
Right. And he said one of the bigger motives is tax reasons, but at the same time, when you look at Apple, the stock was getting very expensive, right? Last time I checked, it was trading 27 times forward earnings, and it rallied almost 50% in 2023, and now it slowed down a little bit. There was also a lot of concerns about China demand, also antitrust issue. I don't think it gets talked about enough. So a lot of issues. We didn't hear that from Warren himself. But it's interesting that he did reveal the tax reasons.
Yeah, well, Tim Cook was in the audience.
I know.
It seems like he didn't
It's a
want to
little
say
bit tricky.
a whole lot more about that. He also said he would love to buy back more Berkshire stock, but it doesn't trade enough. Maybe it's
Right.
also a little bit expensive.
Yeah, they bought back about $2.6 billion in the first quarter, a little bit more than Q4, but in line, yeah.